Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at these two guys here. This one is the ZAR, the ZAR. Looking at the specs right there. This will be a two-part video. We'll also be doing the DQS, which I really like that design. We have some specs. Yep. So light, it's hard to even see what they say. But I'll go over them in just a second. So, alright, the ZAR, which has a really nice cable, probably the best cable that I've ever seen on a KZ, honestly. And, it's not, some people are getting sick of silver cables for some reason. I'm not. Here's the design. Little chunky design, not overly big for the ears, though. Kind of works well. Decent looking. Overall, QDC connectors, and this very nice silver cable. I don't know who designed this cable for them, but what a nice cable. This is a cable worthy of a KZ flagship. It's decent. I would have liked to see an L-shaped connector, maybe. So, okay. Looking at this, we'll hold this up. This one is the ZAR. And it is 123 grams. It's a 3.5 millimeter termination straight plug. It is a 0.75 QDC connector, 2-pin, 20 to 40 kilohertz, 16.5 ohms. That's unusual to get a point. 109 decibels. And that's basically the specs on it. It comes in this nice case. You open it up. It's that traditional with the metal, like we've had on some of the other flagships. I like that they did that. Like I said, nice cable, very nice construction. It's comfortable in the ear. It is a little chunky. Comes with the star tips. I don't know if I would have liked to see the nice new kind of white ones that they have. But anyway, overall design is very good. Then we move on to the DQS, which I have right here, which also has a decent cable. It's a very nice, kind of sturdy cable. It does have an L-shaped connector. And overall, it's a nice cable. Can't find any fault with it. It's robust, so it should last most people. There's a nice design on these. They're very ergonomic. I like that little open mesh panel behind there. I have no idea if these are actually open or not. So let's take a look at that. Holding up the DQS right now. And this one is only 72 grams. It is a 3.5 millimeter connector. It is a QDC 0.75 millimeter 2-pin connector. 20 to 40 kilohertz, 14 ohms, 110 decibels. Very easy to drive. Single dynamic driver. Does it say... maybe I can get probably that information online. So here's your DQS. Here's your ZAR. Put them both next to each other. So a little bit more chunkiness to the ZAR. Then again, it does have a whole bunch of drivers in there. So the ZAR is one dynamic driver and 7 balanced armature drivers. Moving on to my notes. They have a special driver in the DQS. Trying to find the millimeter, like. So let's do the DQS first. Okay, this one is a cheaper model. And I don't actually have the price. So inside the package, you're going to get the cable. You're going to get some tips, star tips. And then you get the unit. No pouch, no carrying case, nothing like that. I would like... I've seen like on Alley like some KZ things. It would be nice for them, like the flagships, to include a case. But they haven't in the past. I don't think I've ever gotten one KZ that's actually had a case with it. So, start at the base. The bass is very peppy. It has some good speed. It's snappy. It definitely has some nice texture there as well. Good control. And it can go down deep with some fairly good details as well. Going into the mids, both female and male vocals sound very good. They're forward. They got some good body to them. There's some good tonality in general. It is a V-shaped, so some of the mids, depending on the track, there might be a little recession there. Moving into the treble, you get a treble that has a decent amount of air. It is very, very nice sounding. There's accurate sound and speed there as well, and a fair amount of micro details. Nothing really blew me away like wow, but compared to some other ones that I've had, definitely does a really good job presenting the treble. We get into the sound stage. Now the sound stage has a decent amount of details and accuracy. It is not the widest, especially on this one. It's a little better on the ZAR, but on this one it is a little bit kind of like medium-sized kind of sound stage. It's not fully intimate, but it isn't exactly the biggest out of the bunch of like the latest IAMs that are coming out. Needless to say, that doesn't really make much of a difference with the enjoyment of the thing. I wouldn't recommend it for gaming, but for music listening, it is really good. And this is one of the better KZs that I've tested in a long time. They keep making improvements with everything, and this one I like a lot more than the previous one, so they're doing a good job. They're listening to people, and they're improving ever so steadily. Yeah, so I like this one. The only cons, like I said, is, the cable is decent compared to past KZ cables. It's not a tangly mess. Construction is very decent as well. I don't think that's metal. I think it's like all plastic, except for the metal mesh inside there. So it does good. It has some very good. It's a V-shape. It has some good control. There's some good dynamics. It's fun sounding. And I think a bunch of people will find it very enjoyable. The only con is the soundstage is a little on the smaller side from what most people are getting into now, more holographic, more super wide sound stages. It is smaller, and you really don't need a giant soundstage for a lot of things. Maybe if you're listening to like orchestral music or something like that, but if you're listening to like hip hop and rock and stuff, you really don't need that huge soundstage, especially when this has a really good amount of details and everything. So that's basically it for the DQS. Very good, and it's comfortable as well. So we'll add that. Let's go on to my notes for the ZAR. Now, the ZAR, here it is. This thing's got some really good bass. Now, the bass can dig down deep, and it's not a bloated, messy kind of bass. There's very good control, very good speed there. Mid bass, same thing, speed and some really good timing. You get into the mids, the vocals clear. They sound really good. There's a really good kind of natural timbre there to them, and definitely good clarity overall. There is some warmth. There's a little bit of bleed from the bass over and that, and then when you get into the upper mids, and especially with female vocals, there's a little lift there, but it is not harsh or shouty or anything else like that. It's just slightly noticeable. But it does add overall. Vocals have some decent, emotion to them and body, and they were enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. And then we get into treble. Now, treble has some good details, with a little bit better than the DQS. Obviously, there's more drivers in this. You're getting more detail, up the line from bass to treble. Definitely, you can hear those cymbals when they're going, and just the instrument separation is very good on this. And then we get into the sound stage. Now, again, soundstage is smaller than the usual generation that's out right now. And that doesn't necessarily hinder the music. I just wouldn't recommend these for like gaming or like watching movies. But music-wise, the soundstage has mildly intimate details to it. I would say it's probably in the medium range. It's obviously not the smallest. It's not like the sound is like coming from the inside of your head, but it's just right out on the outside of the outskirts of where your ears are. So it's very good, and you can hear everything. There's good detail there and everything. There's good overall resolution with this unit. I think a lot of people are going to like this unit, and hopefully it performs well and there's no problems or anything with the fit, because this is a little chunky for smaller ears. But overall, for my ears, it was really comfortable. You got the star tips with it. You got this really exceptional cable. And ultimately, it does a good job performing. I have heard so many IMs lately that are like, super giant soundstage and neutral as heck. It's nice to see something that is just really fun, mature, kind of V-shape. We're getting back to that, KZ. Thanks for doing that, because, you can only have so much of the neutrals before you want to have something that's actually enjoyable and super fun. And not that the neutral isn't enjoyable, but every now and then I just want to listen to some rock, and I want something that's really good for rock. And this is good for rock, electronic music, hip-hop, stuff like that. Definitely would do a good job with that. So with that, you have very good, a little bit better, maybe it should be, because it has more drivers. Both of these are decent. I could recommend these no problem. They fall into a separate category, and it's nice to see them doing their own thing in a world where everybody's like popping out neutral ones. They're sticking to their guns, and they're making something that's really enjoyable that a lot of people are going to really like. So thank you so much, KZ, and this has been the DQS and the ZAR. I hope this video was informative, and I will see you somewhere out on the internet or in the next video. Please be safe.